walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 No time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you for closing out your week with us. I am Chris and that is Mo. Mo, how are you on a Friday?
I never had a bad day. I enjoy life thoroughly. It's a feel-good Friday, talking sports with my partner to end out the week on Wire to Wire Network. I'm ready.
Mo, let's start with this. So the Denver Broncos released Simmons yesterday. Pretty big cut. One of several big cuts that have been happening across the NFL the last couple of days. In other news in the NFL, on the opposite side of things, the Chicago Bears do what the NFL genius himself said the Chicago Bears need to do, and that is they lock up their star defensive back. The Bears signed Jalen Johnson to a 4-year deal worth $54.4 million guaranteed, $76 million overall. This puts him into the top 5 of the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. I believe he falls 4th on that list behind Jair Alexander, Denzel Ward, and of course, Jalen Ramsey. So let's take a look at both moves. One, if you are the Broncos and you're cutting loose Justin Simmons can still play ball. This is definitely a situation where you are up against the cut. Maybe it's because you have an $80 million dead cap situation because of one Russell Wilson.
Yes, sir.
But this is kind of the first domino, is it not, in Denver when it comes to handling the fallout of Russell Wilson not being a Bronco? You are going to have to do some cap maneuvering to get yourself into a position that works. And like we saw in Buffalo, and like we're going to see with some other teams, that means that you're going to have to let go good players. Buffalo, I'm not saying that, Simmons is in the same exact boat as White and Poyer. I think he's actually a little better. But at the same time, it's what it is. You get yourself into these spots. You have to kind of cut the salary so you can move on. And this is going to really benefit whoever he goes to next. And immediately Seattle fans are saying, excuse me, we'll take one because we just made some cuts in our backfield and we need to replace them. But Mo, whoever picks up Justin Simmons, they're picking up an all-pro safety who is still playing at an all-pro level.
He won't be without a home for long, Chris. You know it. I know it. Anybody in the NFL knows it. It's an interesting thing. You hear the word cut, and I think oftentimes fans go, well, this guy can't play anymore. They cut him. That's why they let him go. He's obviously not that good. And we're living in a time and an era where guys who still can play at a very high level are just salary cap casualties. He's going to be a salary cap casualty, and he'll turn around, and it wouldn't shock me at all if he's not a Pro Bowler / All-Pro for a couple of more years or so, wherever he lands. It's a domino effect in the NFL. You cut one guy, he goes somewhere else, and he'll star. I think guys like Poyer's going to find a home, be somebody's starting safety. And I don't know if he's a Pro Bowl safety, but let me just say he's a high-level safety. He can still play and impact the game. So one man's trash is another man's treasure for sure in the NFL. That's just where we're at in the league right now. You hear the word cut, and it's just default. They're done, and it's anything but that.
It is WrestleMania season for WWE, which means it is also Hall of Fame season for WWE. It's already been announced that Paul Heyman is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Very, very deserving. And of course, as the inductees are being announced, Mo, the next question is, who is going to induct them? And if you look at Paul Heyman, I think the first name that probably comes to mind is a name that is not going to be allowed to induct him. And that, of course, is Brock Lesnar. And then, of course, when you get into the conversation of people who are not allowed or able to be a part of the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, there is one name that will continue to come up, and that is the name we are going to discuss this morning. Mo, this is not a will he ever be. This is a should he ever be question. Should WWE ever induct Chris Benoit into the WWE Hall of Fame?
It's such a difficult question. Look, as somebody who watched Chris Benoit from the outset of his career, and I'm speaking as a wrestling fan, talking strictly about his wrestling talent and his accomplishments. I think Chris Benoit is one of the greatest in-ring talents in wrestling history. I think a lot of people they forget the fact that he's I think he's one of those guys that did he not do in the WWE? He did the Triple Crown in WWE. He also did the Triple Crown in WCW. Like, he's known as one of the great wrestlers. Like, there's a lot of guys who are entertaining, but I'm talking about from an actual wrestling ability, technical, tactical, just an incredible performer. And I've watched so many of his big matches. He's unique in this way, Chris, that a lot of guys, they need mic skills to kind of buffer their persona. He wasn't big on the mic, but because his persona was a certain way, a man of few words, he never needed to be great on the mic. He didn't have to be. I think his actions spoke loudly. Having said all that, for me, it's difficult to separate the performer in the man from the tragedy that happened at his home. It is for me. I'm speaking just for me. I don't know if there's ever going to be enough time that passes that you can just look back and admire his career and honor his career without that still being a big shadow over his career. My guess is in the time there might have been a time before where he would eventually get in. My guess is where we're at in our country and how we perceive and see things, I don't think he's going to be getting in anytime soon, if ever. If it were up to me, I don't know if I'm just being honest. I don't know if I would honor him. It's just tough for me to separate those actions. And I want to be fair, because I know a lot of people talked about he had many concussions and that could have contributed to the actions. This is true. He did have his brain was examined, and the doctors who examined it actually said that he had the brain from all the concussions of an 85-year-old dementia patient. Who when you have dementia, that also can alter your moods and affect behavior. I'm not saying any of that to excuse the actions. I'm just outlaying what is a factual thing that happened that was part of the tragedy. He was obviously a man that was troubled, and he was a man that probably should have got help and never sought help. And maybe that's a shame for not just him, but for those around him, those who performed with him. Maybe you knew that he might have been having troubles, and maybe you told him to get help, and he never listened. I don't know. So as a fan on the outside looking in, we might disagree on this, but I just don't see a time when he's going to ever be honored.
Do I think he'll ever be let in? No. Here's where I struggle. I'm a big proponent of you need to be able to separate the art from the artist. You need to be able to look at something and say, hey, this is what it was in the context of a sport or a profession or an accomplishment. And yes, this was great and should be recognized, but the person who did it maybe wasn't a good person. And I'm usually a big proponent of those. And whenever I have this conversation with someone, I struggle because I fall back to one other person who is not a wrestler and is not involved in the world of professional wrestling, and that is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is another case study of the art versus the artist. Now, for me, Mo, and maybe this is a subconscious thing that I'm trying to push forward into my conscious, which is Michael Jackson technically was never committed or found guilty of anything. Allegations galore, civil lawsuits galore, right? I'm not trying to say that murder and what Michael Jackson was accused of are the same. I'm not trying to say they're different. They're both terrible things.
Both of them. Agreed.
But Michael Jackson was never with 100% certainty found guilty of anything. So maybe in my subconscious, I look at that and I have an easier time defending someone like Michael Jackson and saying, just separate the art from the artist. You can love his music. You can respect what he did for the entire music business. You can respect him as an entertainer. And then you can look at him in his personal life and say, there was some weird stuff going on. We're not going to talk about that. I don't buy into what he had going on in his personal life. I don't buy into what he had going on at Neverland Ranch. I'm going to focus on what he did with the music side of it. Then you take that same thing and you apply it to Chris Benoit. And I feel like the roadblock is the fact, well, we know what Chris Benoit did. He was guilty. We know the details of what he did. It's not an allegation. It's not well, we think he did this. We're pretty confident we know exactly what he did. There are crime scene photos of what he did. Life is lost because of what he did. And that's a big hurdle to overcome, Mo. And I think that is definitely the thing for me that would stand in my way of signing off on saying, you know what, respect what he did in the ring, expect his craft, expect what he accomplished in this business. And also, Mo, and I don't know if this plays a role in it, it happened while he was an active wrestler.
Correct.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. But for me, like, it almost blurs the lines even more, because it's not like you're talking about someone that was at the top of his craft and then he retired and 15 years later he did this terrible thing, and there's distance between the craft and the person and what he did. They happen at the same time. He was supposed to be at work when he was doing the thing. So it almost kind of merges those two things together even more, which makes it more of a gray area, which makes it more of a I don't feel good about this type of situation.
That's where I'm at.
And then you get into, like Cottrell said in the chat, you get into the nitty gritty of it, of what does this even look like? Let's say the answer was yes. Let's say we are going to acknowledge just what he accomplished in the ring, and that's all we're going to talk about. Okay. Who inducts him?
Right.
Is it Chavo Guerrero?
Correct.
That's number one. Who is even willing to induct him?
Right, because is it going to be a family member?
Right.
Not like
he has kids. He has a son who's still here. So is it him? Damn, like that's a whole thing right there. Number two, there's gonna be a backlash from Nancy's family that you're gonna have to deal with. There's gonna be a news and media backlash that you would have to deal with.
Obviously.
It would be all over every news outlet. People who don't know a damn thing about wrestling are going to come out and be talking about this, and they're not going to be saying good things about you. So you would have to overcome that huge negative media firestorm. By the way, leading up to the biggest event of the calendar year for you, WrestleMania. So at the worst time to have any negative press, you are going to be giving yourself a ton of negative press. And then what does it look like during the actual event? We know that fans hijack shows around WrestleMania season all the time. Now you're going to let a live crowd kind of do their thing during a Chris Benoit induction into the Hall of Fame. Who knows what way that goes? It could be a pro Benoit crowd, which if it's super pro Benoit, that's kind of awkward. It could be a super negative Benoit crowd. That could be kind of awkward. Mo, it could be dead silent. It could be no reaction. It could be, what do the wrestlers do? How did this affect them?
That's
you
where
could
I was
have
going.
Guys who don't even move. Guys who aren't going to stand up. Guys who aren't going to clap. Guys who aren't going to have a reaction. Well, what about some of the guys who do? Because when they shoot to that crowd and there's 8 wrestlers standing up and clapping, and you're like, what the hell? What is he? Okay, all right, okay. How do we feel about that? We don't know. We don't know.
It's so confusing. Like you said, what if it's Dean Malenko standing up clapping and everybody else is like, what the hell is he doing?
Right.
There's
so many layers. So many layers.
And Cottrell brought up such a great question. Like, what does that look like? I'll say what it looks like to me. It's not going to happen. That's what it looks like. Honestly, I'm with you. The Michael Jackson example is so great that you brought that up, because I struggle with that to this day. I could admire the musical talent and the things that he did, and someone's always quick to say, like, well, Mo, he never did any jail time, and that doesn't make me feel better. That doesn't make me feel better that doesn't make me feel better when he settled. I don't know how many millions of dollars he spent settling, right? And people go, when you settle, that doesn't mean you're guilty. It doesn't mean your ass is innocent either.
Right.
It doesn't mean that either. I have a hard time with that. The Benoit thing is so much more final. We know what happened. We know he did it, and there's a loss of life like that. There is no there is no recovery from that, and the reverberations are going through that family forever. It's one of those things where if you and Chase and I have a conversation about wrestling, we talk about great wrestlers, we could bring it up, but that's different. That's not the same as someone actually honoring him on national TV. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Same type of conversation. Sonny is in the Hall of Fame already. Since being inducted into the Hall of Fame, she is responsible for a loss of life. She was in a motor vehicle incident, and the result of the incident was someone passed away. So technically, she killed someone. She is actually in jail for that right now.
Correct.
Mo, should the WWE remove Sonny from the Hall of Fame?
That's tough, man. Let me just put it this way. It should be on the table. It should be on the table at least. I'm just saying, I had just got through the other night watching the story. Her whole story, obviously her and the young man's, the wrestler's name escapes me. They were together. They were intertwined. They were a duo. And she was doing a big portion of her half of it from behind bars, obviously. And I just think that, look, in this PR age where everything is like PR, and I don't have a gripe against it when it's right. If you've cost life and you've killed someone, yeah, man, I would put it on the table that you shouldn't be honored. You shouldn't be in there. I know the line that great people, or let's say great performers or great athletes, could end up being bad people. I'm well aware of that. And I'm on board that if you've done something so terrible that you've cost life, Yeah, I don't think you should be honored. I really don't. I think the same rules apply. I'm sure the WWE is considering it. They've thought of it. Maybe they think in the bigger scheme, somebody like Sunny. How many people even think of her in the bigger scheme? You know what I mean? They probably think like, well, no one's even thinking about her, so don't even worry about it. Just don't bring her up. It could be that simple. But yeah, I really think they should consider taking her out.
And it's funny, Mo, because, some people look at it and they'll be like, yeah, well, she was inducted X amount of years ago and it is what it is. Would she have been inducted had this happened prior? Had she killed someone 3 years before, they thought of her for induction, would they have inducted her? Probably not, because they wouldn't have wanted to deal with the PR backlash. And I know even though they're both loss of life, I know it's not contextually the same as what Benoit did.
Right.
But either way, she is considered a murderer. And I don't think WWE would want to deal with that PR, especially, and no offense to Sunny, but if you're going to compare career by career, Benoit's career was a lot more impactful than Sunny's was. So if you're going to take a lesser career and you're still talking about loss of life, I don't think WWE would have inducted her had it happened prior.
Oh, she would have never even been considered.
So if you're not considered because of it, how the hell are you going to stay in? Like if we weren't going to let you in with this,
right?
My thought process is, if you're already in and it happens, same thing. Now we don't got to do a big thing, Mo. We don't got to draw attention to ourselves, which is what WWE's thought process probably is. We're not going to release a statement and then people who are, because, and again, I'm just going to state facts. If you saw the pictures from the courtroom scene of Tammy Stitch, most people didn't realize that was Sunny. So,
oh no, look, she had a hard life. She had a hard life. She did not age well.
Unless you knew her real name and you just saw a picture of her in an orange jumpsuit, I don't think any wrestling fan could have told you, oh, that's something. I don't know, Mo. I don't think they could have. So I don't think WWE is going to want to be like, oh, by the way, we're doing this because of this and draw attention to themselves.
Yeah,
I get it.
Can you imagine Triple H strolling out to the center of the ring? Ding, ding, ding. Just so you guys know, we've just decided to remove. No, they're not going to do that. If they do it, which they should, they'll just do it silently. No big announcement.
She'll never be spoken of again. But she probably will never be spoken of again.
Anyway, right.
And who knows? I'm willing to bet if there's a list of WWE Hall of Famers out there on their website or something, she may not be in it. Just saying.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Where do you stand? Oh man, I almost lost the name on the Jimmy Snuka situation.
It's tough, isn't it? It's another.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's another situation where you're looking at someone and there's a loss of life involved, but he was technically never proven guilty. So then you get into the whole conversation of how are you going to condemn someone if they were never proven guilty of doing it? Like, can you condemn someone for just being associated with it? Where does O.J. Simpson fall into that category? Mo, I will sit here today and tell you I think he did it. I have no damn proof that he did it. But I think he did it.
Guess what? You will get no argument from me. My problem is with the whole OJ situation, and I don't want to go too way off the track. It's real simple. The LAPD found a way to try to frame a guilty man. And they got caught trying to frame a guilty man. Morons.
My favorite thing with OJ was they did this a few years after his trial. Johnny Cochran was still with us, and it was some sort of documentary type thing. And Johnny was just walking you through the glove. And he was just walking you through his thought process of like, they're not going to make him try that. There's no way they're going to make him try that glove on because they don't know if it's going to fit him. They didn't make him do it off to the side. They didn't make him do it in chambers.
Right.
There is no way they are going to bring a random glove into this courtroom and just hope it's going to fit his hand unless they know for sure. And sure enough. And boy, the acting that OJ did when he was trying that glove on.
Chris, I got to tell you, I've watched OJ as an actor, seen him in all the Naked Gun movies. That was an Academy Award performance. He actually looked like he was in pain trying to get that glove on. He looked and he had that puzzled look like it won't fit. It's too small. Like, man, the juice, he earned an Academy Award that day.
And then he just couldn't stay out of trouble. I mean, how are you going to get yourself out of that situation? And then you still end up in jail for other nonsense down the road? Come on.
They gave you a miracle, and you got off on a double murder. Guilty of sin and got off on a double murder and managed to end up spending time in jail anyway because you just can't stay out of your own way.
It's so crazy to think about. Well, let's come off of the murder.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Enough darkness for this morning. Enough darkness.
True crime over here on Coffee and Sports on a Friday. Let's jump to the NBA. The injury bug has bitten the Minnesota Timberwolves in a serious way. Cat's gone down. Who's the other one? Why am I spacing on his name?
Anthony Edwards went down.
Oh, Edwards.
He actually returned to the game, though.
Yeah, he returned. Yeah. He had an ankle thing, but he came back and totally lit them up, by the way. But Cat's going to be out for a decent amount of time. They're thinking he's going to return just before the playoffs or early on into the playoffs, Mo. What does that look like for Minnesota down the stretch? Obviously, if you look at Anthony Edwards and you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, I think most people would acknowledge that Anthony Edwards is the more important one. Right. Of the duo. That's taking nothing away from Cat, but facts are facts. If Anthony Edwards was down for the rest of the regular season, I think it would be a bigger issue. That being said, you are looking at a team that is playing well and was playing well, and Cat was playing well, and you're looking at a very tight top four in the West right now. Only a handful of games separate the first four teams. So it's not a situation with, Boston, for example, where you lose a player for maybe the rest of the regular season, but you have an 8 or 9 game cushion. And you're looking at it saying, if we basically play 500 ball, or even if we're a few games under 500 the rest of the season, we'll probably still be in first place. You don't have that cushion if you're Minnesota. I believe you're only 2 or 3 games up on the 4th seed. Heading into this morning. Close. So if you do start playing 500 ball, you might end up 4th going into the playoffs. So what do you think the impact is going to be on Minnesota through the rest of the regular season as far as where they finish in the West, Mo? And then more importantly, if they have to go through the first round of the playoffs without him, does that open the door to this potentially being a round 1 exit for Minnesota?
So to answer the first part of it, I think the rest of the way in the regular season, I think you're going to see a more aggressive Anthony Edwards. But I would also like to add in that the T-Wolves have probably the best backup center in basketball in Naz Reid. And Naz Reid is capable scorer on the post and the perimeter. So I think a bigger role for Naz Reid, it will help buffer some of the loss of scoring from Cat. I think their defense will still remain sound. Reed is actually a better defender than Cat, so I think they'll be fine in the regular season. The question is, though, if they don't have a Cat for the postseason, because he is undergoing surgery for the meniscus, what that looks like. I think this goes back to a conversation, Chris, that you and I had earlier, and we've been talking about. It's a weird way things line up sometimes for certain franchises. It lines up that Minnesota becomes weaker and vulnerable, and suddenly Golden State becomes a little bit scarier. And I think that this is the kind of situation that a team like Golden State would take advantage of in a series.
Mo, if you, and this might be a little controversial in NBA circles, if you are talking just talent That's all I want to talk about right now is just pure basketball talent. Ben Simmons should be a franchise player. Ben Simmons, just on talent, has the ability to be the face of an organization. Now, clearly, it requires more than just raw talent for those things to happen.
It does.
And you are literally looking at a man whose body has betrayed him. I would argue his mind has betrayed him on a certain level. He has made $106 million the last 3 years, and he has only played 57 games in the NBA. His season is done this year. He is saying it's because he's looking into stuff with the nerves and his back, and it's all medical related for physical stuff. Some buy it, some don't. Some think his mind just isn't where it needs to be. There's been conversations that he's scared to really get back out there and fully do it, because what's it going to look like? I think it's all part of it, Mo. I think everything, whether you're talking about is his body going to hold up, can he physically do it, to something as simple as does he want to? Does he want to go? Does he actually really, yeah, he might say he wants to, but deep down inside, does he actually want to? I think that's part of it. Does he think he can do it? Does he think he can go back out there and he can put up the numbers that he put up in his rookie career, in his rookie season? Can he go out there and do that again? Talent-wise, you would think he could. Physically, can he? Probably not. Mentally, can he? I would even say probably not. Would a team even give him the opportunity to have enough minutes to go out there and do what he did in his rookie season? Probably not. So, Mo, what are we take and take the bias out of it? Take the bias of you were a fan of a team that he played on. Take the bias of you think that you were in a championship window and he cost you a potential run. Take all that bias out of it and just look honestly at his career. What do you even make of it?
It's disappointing. It started off so strong. You're talking about a guy across the board, 16-8-8. 16-8-8, and he happened to be one of the elite perimeter defenders in the NBA because at 6'10", he obviously can move like a smaller player. So he could guard all 5 positions at a high level. And the funny thing is, when he got hurt the last time, I actually set the bar lower. I told people I thought Ben Simmons can still be a very good rotation player. I thought that the idea of him being a star or a lead guy had passed, but could Ben Simmons still be somebody that can help impact a game and say instead of 16-8-8, it's 10-5-5 in spot minutes and still play high-level defense? I thought he could do that. And I do agree with you. Yes, some of it is the injuries. Some of it is mental. There's probably a degree of mental toughness too. And what is Ben Simmons as a competitor? Like you said, does he really want to go out there and do it and risk being injured further? He's still a young man. Maybe Ben Simmons is saying, I've made all this money. If I don't play another game, I'm set for life financially. I would like to think he's more of a competitor than that, and I'm sure others would disagree with me. I would like to think he would like to resurrect his career and finish it on a high note. We're still talking about somebody, I believe Ben Simmons is 27 or 28. Again, a young man. But if your body is breaking down, if it's literally breaking down, and I'm not his doctor, I'm not the team doctor, but if it is breaking down the way he says it's breaking down, it might just not be meant to be. It might be, you might really be finished. And so I'm not going to give a guy a hard time if he realizes that my body won't do the things that I need it to do, and I might need to step away from the game.
And I can't even imagine the mental aspect of that, Mo, because you're going through the mental and emotional grind of fixing yourself, right? So you're trying to fix your body, you're trying to rehab, we don't know what kind of pain he's in. We don't know what that process looks like on the daily to get him into playing shape. And that's just for a doctor to say, you're good. Your body is in a good place. You are physically capable of playing the game of basketball at whatever level you can go out there and do it. Well, that's the next question. What level can he go out there and do it? Because as you know, Mo, being clear to play basketball is one thing, but you're cleared to play basketball at the current physical condition of your body. And if the current physical condition of your body is 75% of what it was just a handful of seasons ago when you were a rookie, well, does he want to go out there and play when his best is going to be 75% of what it was, or whatever that number is? And that's if everything goes right. Now you have the mental side of it. What does that do to his performance out there? And these are all things that it looks like it just keeps snowballing in on him. And then, of course, you have the sports media, which takes their shots and says what they're going to say, and that's part of it, and I get it. But, man, I mean, I can't imagine just what he's dealing with from all sides of it, not to mention the fact that I'm sure he's hearing it from the guys around him, too. You don't think the guys on his team or people in the inner NBA circles, conversations that we don't hear, you don't think they don't have a take? You don't think that they don't have an opinion on it? And I'm not saying that right or wrong. They're human. They're going to have a take. They're going to have an opinion. Is he hearing it? What are they saying? How does he, it all comes together, Mo. It's all part of the puzzle, and it's all going to impact him. And I've heard guys say, well, he's emotionally weak. He's mentally weak. I don't know if I can be in that train. I don't know if I can sign off on that because I don't know him. I don't know where his mental psyche is. I don't know what kind of damage has been done during this process for me to say, oh, he's mentally weak. He's not out there saying that I'm a good player. He's not out there saying that I can still do this at a high level when he's clearly not. He's not a rah-rah talking up guy. He just looks like a guy that he's trying to play basketball, but does he really want to play basketball?
And he's taking a beating. Remember, you talked about the mental toughness, but with social media and the way the fans are, the way the media is, he's taking a mental beating. He's become low-hanging fruit. I would argue that Ben Simmons in the NBA is very much akin to Russell Wilson in the NFL. He's become the low-hanging fruit guy that everybody's like, they're not pointing to the injuries or what he could do in a positive light. What they're going to tell you is, well, for the money that he's making, and that because that's the first thing they're going to point out, the money. And I would say set contract aside, if his body's broken down and the man's tried to rehab himself multiple times and something else has broken down, look, a fair criticism could be said that he didn't play his best ball that last series with Philly. Obviously, it's the one that Philly fans just can't get over versus the Hawks. That's fair. It's a fair criticism. But if he was injured going forward with the Nets and since then, I don't want to pile on because I think that's what's happening. It's easy to go like you see the headline, Ben Simmons done for the year, and first thing people say is, there he goes again. There he goes again, just getting paid to do nothing, just stealing money. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say that his career started out with so much promise, and to see his star fall the way it's fallen, it's just sad and it's disappointing. And I've never been a Ben Simmons hater, but I'm one of those guys that always thought that as a player before the injuries, he could have been better, but I'm not going to be one of the pile-on people. I just think that it's a sad ending to what could have been a really promising career.
Mo, mark your calendar. This summer, it's being billed as a big fight. Boxing a little more than I do, so you can tell me how big of a fight it's going to be. But Jake Paul is going to step into the boxing ring with the legendary man himself, Iron Mike Tyson. Woo! Never thought I'd say that one.
Just for clarification, Mike Tyson's last 3 professional bouts, when he was age 38, he lost. He got the brakes beat off of him.
Hmm.
That was at age 38. And these weren't some of the top heavyweights of all time. A couple of these guys were bartenders / club fighters, and they beat the brakes off of him when he was 38. So you want me to pay money to watch him basically 20 years later at age 57 fight a 27-year-old who while he's only had 10 professional fights, what won't change is he's a full 30 years younger and quicker and faster. And you're trying to convince me it's going to be a great fight and it's worth paying for. So the winner in this bout, it's Father Time. They will step into the ring and Jake Paul will beat him down. He's going to beat Mike Tyson up. I don't care to see an old man get beat up. I'm not going to watch it because I already know what's going to happen. And then people are going to go, this guy beat up Mike Tyson. He did. He beat up Mike Tyson just on the outside of 60 years old. He beat up that Mike Tyson.
What is the bet? Is it just it's just a payday for Mike, right? That's all it can. He can't actually think. And I know he's going to come out swinging. I know people are going to say one punch is all it takes.
Yes.
And I know that's what they're going to say. And they're going to say if he just hits one, he's going to knock out Jake Paul. And that's all it's going to take. Well, Jake Paul knows that too. Right. And Jake Paul, and you can say whatever you want about his boxing career, but if you look at what he has done, he has beaten fighters that are better than Mike Tyson in his current condition. I'm not saying he could have beaten prime Mike Tyson. I'm saying that Mike Tyson, senior citizen Mike Tyson, Correct. He's over 55, folks. He has beaten people who are better than him, who are quicker than him, who are more athletic than he has. Now, they may not have the boxing acumen that Mike Tyson has, but who knows if Mike Tyson even still has that same boxing acumen that he did when he was in his mid-20s, because Mike Tyson has lived a lot of life and he has lived it hard. And we don't know what his mental capacity still is going into this fight. It's hard, Mo, not to look at it as Mike wants a little money. Mike's gonna get a little cash from this.
Right. And the thing is, I actually thought Mike had recovered and was doing well with money, but maybe they told him that he's going to make so much from this that he couldn't turn it down. My problem is with this is, and I know, Jake Paul, he's going to train for this like Mike Tyson is in his prime.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like he's in his prime. And so the selling point is going to be, yeah, Mo, but if Mike catches him one time, it's over. Yeah, I agree 100%. The problem is, when he doesn't catch him, and by the way, when Jake Paul is just peppering up Mike Tyson's jaw, you're still going to be trying to sell me on. But if Mike recovers, he's going to get him, Mo. And I'm like, no, he's not going to get him. A young man is going to beat up an old man. That's what's going to happen, and it's sad because Mike Tyson is actually going to allow this to happen by stepping into the ring. Mike Tyson at age 38. I would give him the edge, even though he got beat down his last 3 fights. Mike Tyson at age 38 would probably beat Logan Paul at age 27. Mike Tyson at age 57 is going to get knocked out, probably hurt. He's probably going to get hurt.
It's going to sell, though. It's gonna bring in the ratings, Mo.
Well, yes, for obvious reasons. Jake Paul, like his brother, is the guy that you come to watch fight because whether you root for him or you root against him, you're going to show up, right? And that's why you know it's going to sell. You're going to have so many Mike Tyson fans going, Mike's going to teach this kid a lesson and put him in his place and show him once and for all he's not a boxer. And then after he beats Mike Tyson, the Jake Paul people will say, Jake can beat the greats. Who's next? He just beat Mike Tyson. Who else can I bring out of retirement? How old is Larry Holmes? Who else can I get a hold of that's 50 or 60 that I can beat up on? Yeah, sure.
I will say this, though, Mo. It's going to be a great boxing night at those watch parties because you're going to hear all the stories. I watched it. I watched it when Mike Tyson knocked him out in 13 seconds. Everybody was angry that they spent all that money on the paper. Not me, though. I knew he was going to knock him out quick.
Right. And then when Mike gets beat up, they're going to be like, it was rigged, right? You could never beat Mike. No, that wasn't rigged. That was Father Time. It's not rigged. It's not rigged. It didn't need to be rigged.
Mo, NFL.com has released all of the free agent groups and the top free agents coming out of each group. We're going to look at the quarterbacks and the wide receivers today. I actually wasn't even going to look at the quarterbacks because I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward. And then I saw the ranking and I was like, let's talk about this. So they ranked 8 free agent quarterbacks, and we're going to go backwards. We're going to go from 8 to 1. And you just tell me when you have an issue with their ranking, all right? So number 8, they have Tyrod Taylor. Number 7, they have Gardner Minshew. I think we're okay so far.
No,
above Gardner Minshew, we have Jameis Winston. Fair enough. Above Jameis, we have Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson's our first big name. He enters at number 5. Okay. Above Russell Wilson at 4, we have Ryan Tannehill.
Really?
Any issue with Tannehill being ranked higher than Russell Wilson?
Yeah, he's not better than him. I'll make it simple. He's not better than him. I would argue that from what I've seen when he's had the opportunity, I'm not sure he's better than Minshew. We're talking about right now today.
Ryan
Tannehill's not better than Russell Wilson, and he's not better than Minshew. I got a problem with that. I think he's ranked way too high.
Number 3, Baker Mayfield.
I'm good with that.
Number 1 is Kirk Cousins.
That doesn't surprise me.
Number 2, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I got a problem with
that. How is Jacoby number 2?
I got a problem with that. Like I think Jacoby Brissett is a good backup quarterback, but that's what he is.
I don't even know if he's good. He was in Miami. I dealt with Jacoby Brissett. He's all right.
I would argue that Jacoby Brissett is behind pretty much most of the guys on the list, right? Like
he can win a game. He can win a game for you. If he has to spot start, it's not the end of the world. You're like, I think we can pull it out with Jacoby. Then you probably don't, but it was probably competitive, and you move on.
But he's not gonna do what Minshew did and keep you in the hunt in the division. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he's ranked way too high. Like I thought Tannehill was ranked high. Jacoby Brissett.
They got a lot of love.
All right. Well, I don't get it, but okay. But I wouldn't. He's ranked way too high. I don't get that at all. Like,
all right,
if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm a little upset. I'm like I would have conceded that Baker is ahead of Russell Wilson. I would, but that Jacoby Brissett is ahead of Baker? What?
According to NFL.com. All right, let's talk about the wide receivers. They ranked the top 8 wide receivers on the free agent market. We'll start with number 1 because my issue with this list is more towards the bottom. So Calvin Ridley's number 1. I think that's fair. I think this is not a strong receiver class at all. And he is the cream of the wide receiver crop. Marquise Brown, Hollywood, baby. Hollywood Brown is number 2. Okay. Gabe Davis is number 3. Curtis Samuel is number 4. Darnell Mooney is number 5. KJ Osborne is number 6. Odell Beckham Jr. is number 7. And my issue is number 8 is Tyler Boyd. I am a big Tyler Boyd fan.
We're still talking about the same Tyler Boyd from Cincinnati, right?
Yes, we are. This is the same Tyler Boyd who, if you go back like 3 seasons, he was the number 1 receiving option in Cincinnati, and he was putting up numbers. Now, granted, they got 2 better receivers than him. They got Jamar Chase, which pushed him to number 2. They got T. Higgins, which pushed him to number 3. And as a number 3 receiver, you just see less opportunities. But if you look at his numbers since Chase and Higgins have come aboard in Cincinnati, they've been hurt at times, and he's had to go back up to a number 2 at times. And in some situations, for brief stints, he's been back to their top receiving target, and he's handled the workload. I'm not trying to say Tyler Boyd is a number 1 receiver in this league. I think he is a high number 2 receiver in this league. I think he has that kind of talent and capability. He was a de facto number 1, and he did fine in that role with Cincinnati when he had to be. But I'm not going to go out here and make claims that I think he's a top 32 receiver. I don't think he is. But damn, I don't think he's behind 31-year-old Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think he's behind Mooney or Curtis Samuel or Gabe Davis. I think Calvin Ridley is more talented than he is. But I don't think Calvin Ridley's production the last few seasons has proven or given me any hope that he could be more productive right now than Tyler Boyd. So
why is Tyler Boyd so, like, how old is Tyler Boyd right now? Is it an age thing?
Right now he is 29. He's about to be 30.
Then he should be ranked a lot higher than that. And look, the problem with OBJ is we really don't know what Odell Beckham Jr. has left in the tank. What we do know is he's definitely not a number 1 anymore.
Correct.
And I'm not even sure he's a consistent number 2 at this stage of his career. He had to know. It's not like a lot of people who watch football didn't think ahead of time. Like, he had to know going to the Ravens, we're not really going to find out much about what he can do because of the way they pass the football, or the way they don't pass the football. He wasn't going to get a lot of work. And so I would not rank him and a few others on that list ahead of Tyler Boyd. I would have Tyler Boyd. I would actually have him right behind Calvin Ridley, and only because I think Calvin Ridley is naturally more talented. I don't know if he's a better route runner, but I know he's a more talented football player.
I think Odell needs to go to Kansas City, personally. I don't think he's going to be a big explosive weapon in Kansas City, but what I do know, he's going to catch the football. And I think that is something that Patrick Mahomes needs, is he just needs another option out there that is going to catch the football when it's thrown to him. Obviously, health is always going to be an issue with Odell. I don't think Kansas City is going to, even if they were interested, I don't think they would pay him what he would want to be paid. But I think that fit-wise, he would look nice as a Chief.
And I don't think he would come at a high price because you're judged off of your performance and what he's done in his time with Baltimore. You're not getting a raise off of that. So if anything, Kansas City would be doing him a favor because obviously Chiefs, 1, they're on TV a lot. 2, if you're playing with Mahomes and company, you're going to be contending for a Super Bowl. And 3, yes, because of their receiving core, the one thing we know about Odell Beckham Jr., he has great hands. So maybe he's not going to be explosive down the field, but he could be that reliable receiver between the chains and help move the football. So I do think Kansas City would be a great landing spot for him.
Mo, breaking news, Russell Wilson is in the air. He is on his way right now to Pittsburgh to meet with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mutual interest, as it's being described from both sides. Russ has interest in the Steelers as a franchise. The Steelers have interest in Russ as a quarterback. I don't know where Kenny Pickett is this morning. Hopefully he is doing okay. Things have definitely fallen apart in his world rather quickly these last few weeks. We went from Kenny Pickett saying he's not going to be a healthy backup, potentially. That is what he said. To
Right.
Now we're bringing in new quarterbacks to potentially audition for a job that was his 3 months ago. So we're going to close the show with this. I think Russ is a great fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're looking at a very similar philosophy to what he had in Seattle. It is a defensive-minded head coach. The Steelers usually have a pretty good defense. They got that one guy out there that keeps racking up all these sacks. 24 and a half sacks the past 2 seasons. Steelers quarterbacks have 24 touchdown passes in the same amount of time. More sacks than touchdown passes.
That's an insane number. That's insane.
That's ridiculous, Mo. So but he's not defensive player of the year. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, he is to me. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but he is to me. So I don't know what they were thinking.
The Steelers always have a good defense. Granted, division is a little treacherous. You got the Bengals in there if Joe Burrow is healthy. You got the Browns in there. They got a pretty good squad themselves. You got the Ravens in there with the 2-time MVP. But I think for the next 2 years, Pittsburgh could be a nice spot for him. If you're the Steelers, potentially look at drafting a quarterback this year or next year. That's going to be the future. I don't think Russ is going to play. I think best case scenario, he plays for 3 more years, but I think it's more like 2. And it might even be 1.5. He might play this year. And then if things aren't looking great, you might transition him out midway through next year. And that's where he wraps it up. But I think this is a good fit. I think you need to just make sure you're bringing in an offensive coordinator that can run an offense that Russell Wilson can excel in. And then I think we're good to go.
You laid it out perfectly. The Steelers are the closest thing to what he had in Seattle. And I like the fact that they do have 2 very good running backs. They're not dominant backs, but they have a strong run game. So I think if they bolster up their offensive line, they already have talented weapons on the outside. Russell Wilson is at his best when he is a complement to a strong run game, and he has got a strong defense. So it's funny because I thought last season, and I think you agreed, that Sean Payton basically told Russell, we don't want you to do a lot. You know what I mean? And when he said a lot, he meant we don't want you to do a lot. So I'd rather you throw a 4-yard pass here and a 3-yard pass there. They basically had him playing not to lose football. I think Mike Tomlin will let him play football, not in the sense that Russ is going to throw 40 passes a game, but I think he'll let him be who he is as a quarterback. So it's a perfect fit to me.
Let Russ cook. That's all I'm saying, Mo. Let the man cook.
Well, maybe not cook, but
let him cook. Let him cook.
Maybe microwave or warm something up, but don't cook.
Let Russ cook. Let Mike Tyson cook. Let them all cook.
Mike's gonna get cooked. You're right. You're gonna get cooked.
Close us out, sir.
Appreciate you guys in the chat. Thank you for the support. Check out all the great content that we have to offer at the Wire to Wire Network. Y'all already listening to us, so give us a sub, a follow. Support the channel. Appreciate you so much. Wire to Wire Network.
I just hope Tyson gets out of the first round. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to see him go down round 1, Mo.
He's going to get out in the first round.
Make sure you're back. Same time, same place on Monday. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network, and we will see you Monday morning.